episode of Bob the Sign Man. Today I'm going to have to do kind of like a little remake of a sign that I'm making. It's a school crossing sign. I got a new iPhone. My iPhone 10 or XR crapped out on me and I was real familiar with it, so I got the new iPhone 15 Plus and I shot in a format that was not recognized by my editing software. So the last video I put out was kind of, well, I did it off of a screen recorder from a movie and it just didn't turn out right. So I'm going to remake this sign. A lot of the details will be cut out on how I'll show you most of the details, but the printing part will be kind of cut out a little bit. So let's jump into this exciting episode and let's get going. Okay, here's the sign I'm going to make. It's a SR4-1 California MUTCD sign. Of course, in California, we're just the special people out here, and we got to have everything our own way. We've got our own MUTCD, and just don't get me started on our politics out here, because I usually try to keep politics out of my show. But let's just say I'm making this special sign in California. So it's got fluorescent green up top, the fluorescent green yellow, and the white diamond grade. In order to make that, I have to cut it out on my plotter, and then I have to splice this in, and I just don't do the plotter thing anymore. I like to print it out, digitally print, and have everything to go. So I was loading it up, and I thought to myself, now how am I going to print that fluorescent green orange? I can't do that. So I have to lay out the sign in two different steps, and I'll kind of walk you through how I laid this sign out. A lot of people just make the school sign, then they put a speed limit sign, and there's a separate thing for when children are present. Some states have like when lights are flashing and stuff like that, but we're not allowed in California. Like I told us, we're just so special out here. And the people make three signs, and I think to myself, okay, I could do that, but why make three signs? That's 3 times the amount of work when I can just make one sign, right? So kinda, it's just a matter of preference, and the sign man, I'm going to do it right, or I'm not going to do it at all. I don't know if this is right, but this is the way I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show you the way I do it. So let's jump into a little thing here. I'm going to turn on my, open up my Flexi program and do a little screen recording, and I'll kind of walk you through how I laid it out. Okay, let's jump into this, how I designed the sign. So I started looking at it, and I thought to myself, okay, if I go ahead and print, here's my first attempt. I did the borders, and then first of all, I copied a sign and put my own, I cut out the part that said when flashing or whatever, and I put when children are present, because that's what we do here in California. So so if I just put a straight line across, you might say, well, who's going to notice? It's true. I'm going to notice. And I just don't do that. So when I copy the sign, you can see my contour right here. The border doesn't follow it, and that just drives me, more terms to speak, batshit crazy. I just don't like that. So I could have just put a black line across. It would have been straight, but I wouldn't have these little fancy contours. So I came up with this idea. Okay. So I laid out the sign. And I actually got all kinds of workarounds here. So I made this. Oops, let me put that back the way it was. So I made this little bracket that I can actually just take then, put into my sign. Let me enlarge it a little bit, move it over up to where it's supposed to be right there. And bingo, I've got it there, and all I have to do is print it, right? That's what I thought. So I started to set it up and print it, and I thought, well, wait a minute. I can't print the top, which is supposed to be the fluorescent green. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? So what I did is I came up with this idea. So I made the sign blank here, 24 by 6, and then effects, I want to outline it, and I'm going to go, the width is going to be 0.625 and the offset 0.325. So I'm going to turn that traffic black, and I'm just going to hit record, or whoops. I want to go, let me do that again. I want to go effects. I'm going to outline. Where it says outline here, I want to turn it to inline because I want to go inside. There we go. And then I'll just hit that. So then I'm going to bring a guide down so I can cut the sign in half. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to clear the outside. I'm going to separate the outline, okay? And then I'm just going to delete it. So now, what I did, let me enlarge this a little bit more for you. I took, since I have the line that goes straight across here, I highlight this. I took my cleaver, and once you set it up on the line, see how it turns into like a target thing, and you can follow the line just perfect. Come out here, snapped it in half, okay? So now what I do is I have two sections. So what I did, lift this one up, and so then I just brought it down. I turned these into a wireframe so I can see exactly where they're at. So there we go. And then what I did is I took the two and effects, combine, I just welded them together. So now they're all just one piece. See how that looks now? I've got my contours right here that I like. That's what the sign man was looking for. So I got that, and then I just took it over to my school sign, placed it right where it was supposed to be, and I did the same deal as I welded them together, and I thought, great, now I got that solved. But still, I couldn't send it off to the printer because I can't print the greens, but I did get the border that I wanted. So that wasn't good enough. So what I did then is I took the sign again and I cut it in half. So now I can take this. See how I have it separated now? I have the speed limit 25 when children are present. And then I was able to, why I like using my printer so much is I get the property in Napa County down below, 324, the month and the year that I made the sign. And I put my trim marks on there. So now what I can do, and I got my trim marks up here, is I can cut this sign out, or not cut it out, I can print it. I could cut it out if I wanted to, but I find printing is so much easier because while it's working, I can go do other work. Like I always say with my printer now, my printer works for me, I don't work for my printer. And same with the plotter. I work for the plotter because all it does is just spits it out, and then I have to weed it. By the time I weed it, and then I have to go ahead and apply the transfer tape, and then I have to sheet my blank and trim my blank, where it's easier if I just print it out, overlay it, and there I go. When I say overlay, I mean putting a protective sheeting over it. Well, we find out that it's probably cheaper, because when you do your plotter and you cut out the EC film, you still have to buy the diamond grade, and then you still have to spend the money to buy the EC film, and it's cheaper to buy the ultraviolet protection covering than it is to buy the EC film. So find it more efficient this way. Like I said, while at the printer's printing, I can go do other things. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I got this set up, and I always save all my files. Whenever I make any changes, I always save everything, so it's on my computer. And you think, well, that's a lot of work to do that. Yeah, but I only have to do it one time, and that's it. It's done. So, the argument would be, well, it's easier to do the other way. This is a lot of work. Yes, it is, but it only is done one time. So let's get back, and I'll show you how I assembled the sign. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send the school part off to the green EC or the green diamond grade material that's already loaded up. So here's the school part. I'm just going to click it, highlight it. I have my trim marks on here. These trim marks down below aren't really going to matter much because I'm just going to trim the top part and the side, and this side is going to be trimmed right even and butt up with it. I could actually get rid of those two marks if I didn't want them. So all I got to do then, highlight this, jump up here to this little printer icon. It's supposed to be a printer. Click it. Now it's going to open up my production manager. Yes, the sign man has his own production manager. Well, everybody will have one. So I'm going to lay this out. Let's keep the settings that I used last time. No. Okay, so I got to go back and reset them. The 400, this material that I'm going to use is going to be user defined, and it's going to be 0.36. Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to be 36.375. Okay. Oh, that's looking good. I want to turn this job, see how it's laying this way. I want to turn it up the other way so it's like that. And I want to print. Okay, let's slide that over that way. I want to print, well, I got to do 4 of these. 2. Okay, 4. C4, I'm going to waste all that material right in there. I keep pointing with my finger. I know you can't see it because it's a screen recorder, so there it is. So there's 4 of them. I'm just going to print 2 more so I don't waste that material. But I want to leave a little space in between those, so I'm going to space those out a little bit. And then I want to center it. See this little gizmo down here, set your centering option. You can push them over to the left. I can push them over to the right. But I'm going to center them right in the middle so we'll get a good print. And all I have to do now is double check my settings to make sure I have everything correct. I'm going to just hit send. And it's going to go over to my printer pretty soon. The production manager is going to open up here. And I want to continue printing. I did forget to rewind that a little bit, but that's all right. The green that's going to be left over, because I'm going to have probably 8-10 inches, I chop those up and we use them to identify fiberglass markers where our culverts are marked. So that green never goes to waste, really. And the guy is telling me he needs some more of them, so I'll just use the extra that I'm going to have left over, and I'll make him some markers. So I'm going to print out, like I said, I need 4, but I'm going to do 6 because I didn't want to waste any material there. So let me get back to the assembling this sign. Okay, there we go. I've got the green loaded up. I keep calling it green. It's really a fluorescent yellow-green. We use it only exclusively in our county for on our street signs for school zones. So while it's doing its thing, I'm going to jump over to the CWT 1428 table and do my thing. Okay, now I'm going to have to put the film over the top of it, which is going to be kind of a bummer. I hate it because they changed the backing on this stuff, and it's really, really thin now. So this is a 24-inch sign, and I got 24-inch material here. I'm going to sketch out enough that's going to cover it. And this is for protection so that the sun doesn't, or the light, I should say, I don't know if it's always the sun, but the light that is not going to make it fade. So, and I'll show you what the problem is, why I hate this new stuff. My 3M rep told me, oh, they did it to save money. There goes that darn compressor. Every time I do something, the compressor's got to start up. I'll just talk a little louder. So, I'll show you why I do not like this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to flip this side over, and it's really, really thin. So what I found out is I used to flip half the sign at a time. So now I roll it back a little bit further so I don't have as much material to work with there. And then I just try to peel this backing back. And it really freaking sucks anymore. So this is 3M 1170C. That's the name of the film. It's really tough to work with. What I found out when I used to roll it halfway out is this stuff was just crinkle up, and it would always fold back on me and stuff. So I just do a little bit on the side now. And you can use scissors. I got this little blue jobby here that I like. It's pretty cool. Anytime I can keep sharp objects out of my hands, it's good. So here's that film. It's real lightweight, hard to work with. I don't like it. It sucks. I still got a couple rolls that have the older stuff on it, and it's really thick and easy to work with. Anybody who's working with it now, I don't know. I just don't like it. Maybe you guys do, but you know, the old dog just don't like new tricks. All right, let's finish cutting this now that I'm done whining and complaining about the backing on this stuff. Let's get to work. So that side's done. Now I have to flip this whole side over. And I have to peel off the old section here. And now's the time you want to check this out and make sure you don't have anything that's on it. One time I was rolling this out, and just as I rolled it out, this bug lands on it, and well, he's permanently on assigned up to Lake Berryessa somewhere. So anyways, I just peel this backing back, hold on to it, and there we go. We're just going to roll. Make sure you don't let your backing roll over your material. It'll create a big mess. All right, here's that. Stuff drives me nuts. Okay, so there we are. Got it covered. I've got my trim marks on there. It's a 24-inch wide sign that's going on a 24-inch size blank, so we won't have any problems with that. I'm just going to go ahead and trim this up. Here's you guys a better view here. All right, let's trim this up. And it's always good to start your day or your job with a nice, clean, sharp blade. Kind of have a reputation around this yard as cutting myself a lot. No, I don't have any psychological problems of not cutting myself like that, but things just happen. Just cut myself. I got a nice little, I was working on a sign, and I'm cutting like this. I was cutting some wire. I had a zip tie on it, cut a wire, and it slipped and stabbed myself. But you know, maybe if I would use the right tool for the right job, that wouldn't happen all the time, but you know, things happen. And you know, we've got some other nice little scars that have healed up. But you know, anybody that's worked in this a long time knows that it's gonna happen. Okay, so there's my top sign. Or not top sign, my first sign that I did. You notice how the border is a lot shorter? That's because the green is going to butt up to it. And so let's take a look at the green and see how it's doing. All right, so the green's coming out, but I can see right here had a little problem, some type of head strike. Not quite sure what's going on, why I did that. I have one theory. This bottom shelf here, when it rolls out, it builds up with some white sticky stuff, and when it does, when it rolls out, it comes up and it hits the top, and that looks more like the head strike came through. And well, anybody that uses one of these printers, I'm sure you're going to have that problem. But anyways, it's a good thing I printed up 6 of them, because if I would have just done the 4 that I needed, I'd have been having to make another one. So while it's printing, I'll get back to the sign. All right, one thing I always like to do, failed to mention this, before I design a sign, I know what blanks I'm going to be using. I always want to check the radius corners. I got this little, I laminated these papers. I got 3-inch, half inch, 1.5 inches, 3/4, 1.875, and 2.25. I can usually tell just by looking at them. This is going to be 1.5 inches. All I do is hold my guide up to verify, and if it doesn't line up, like say if it was a, see how that 1.875 doesn't line up right, so that way I can line it up just perfect. So you're probably wondering, that's neat, where did you get that? Go to www.bobthesignman.com. I have my own webpage. I haven't messed around with it too much lately, but there's a resource section there, and it's a PDF. You can download it, print it out, laminate it, and I'll tell you what, it saves a lot of headaches. Okay, I've got my school printed, and I've got my speed limit printed. I just curious to see how thick that border really is, if it's going to be 0.625, because I did do some trimming on it. And 0.625 is, yeah, 0.625 there. Here I got 0.625. Here I am under by a smidge, 1/16 of an inch. So, the sign man, that ain't gonna work. So, yeah, it'll work. So I'm gonna make sure I've got my lined up there. Lined up there, a little bit of trim in there. Here, got a little bit of trimming up here, a little bit more than down here. So I will move this down just a little bit, a smidge. Okay, that. And got that. And we'll fix that border discrepancy. Always seems to be a problem at the border anymore. Okay, so I got it lined up there. Let's go ahead, I'm gonna just set this aside. And I'm gonna go ahead and shoot this onto here. Okay, got that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the top school part sign on. Like I said, I'll fix that problem there in a second. All right, let me trim this up real quick. I'll show you what it looks like. All right, there we go. I'm very pleased the way it turned out. Borders lined up pretty good here. The only thing is, okay, up here I'm at 625. This one's a little under, plus there's a little line there. Don't worry, we'll take care of that. A lot of people would say, gee, is that going to matter? No, but it matters to me. And I'll show you how we're going to work around that. Okay, I'm sure a lot of my people that have been watching my channel have seen me use the border repair tools that I use, and works out very well. See if I can find a razor blade, stick my hands in here without cutting myself. So this is 0.625, which is 5/8. So we're at 5/8 exactly. So it matches these. These are the same size, as you can see in here, the same size. These are not the same size. They're off a little bit. I'll show you by how much. See that difference? That matters to the sign man. You can't have that. So what I will do is I will, now these aren't quite long enough, so I'll have to do 2 pieces, but that's okay. I'll just set one down on the bottom. That border. And I'll cut a little piece. And we need a piece about this long. For the other side. Okay, now what that did, made my border good, hid that line that was in there when I had spliced them together. All right, there we go. Digitally printed, 2 different colors. You're never going to print this and duplicate this color no matter what you do. Some people might say, well, we're just going to do the yellow and print it. I don't like it because it doesn't, it's not the green, yellow, green, whatever, reflective DG3. But this is the way I did it. I like it. It turned out very well. Like I said, some people do the 3 different signs. Just make one sign. And you can see it doesn't take much effort. It was a little bit effort to set it up, to get it going. But, you know, hey, what can I say? Turned out pretty good. So, you know, when things go, when you have to stop and think, and, you know, just think things out. If you're ever stuck and in a jam, you can always turn to the sign man. As always, thanks for watching.